This is a daughter podcast where dads come to talk, think, and thrive with your host, Oscar and Blandon. Our mission is to cultivate a community of strong, mindful, and present fathers.
We want to curate honest conversations with all men, but especially those who have the honor of raising daughters.
All right, hey everyone, this is Oscar over here at the Daughter Podcast. Welcome back. Blandon on the other side, and today, Blandon, we got a guest.
We do have a guest. So for all those people out there who are always asking me, man, how do you keep your beard so nice? What's going on? How's it stay so full and the edge up is so clean? Well, who we have on today is the person who keeps me fresh and clean. This is my barber, but he's not only a barber, he is a dad and he is an entrepreneur. He's a business owner. So we have on our show today the one, the only Mr. Dorian Johnson. Dorian, how you doing, man?
Without further ado, yes, sir. What's happening? Peoples? What's the deal? Thank you for having me.
A very animated introduction, I see. Thank you. This is what I deal with on a weekly basis at the barbershop.
It's the barbershop.
No, right. Right. So he should have his own podcast inside the barbershop. All the conversations that we have, from religion to politics to movies, all the things going on in there. However, I think Dorian has a very interesting and compelling story about being a girl dad. So, Dorian, how about you introduce yourself to everybody and let us know a little bit more about yourself and your journey as a single girl dad.
Well, like I said, I don't have no kids. Where do we get this from?
Oh my God.
How did I become? Let me stop playing. Well, on the real, yeah, I do have a crazy story. My story is a story that was really just, I would have never thought that I would have been in this type of situation, raising a girl by myself. And yeah, it just happened. I guess I wasn't expecting it to be in the cards, but it was in the cards. So you got to play the hand you dealt. So with that, what happened was, I had about 5 or 6 different girlfriends at the time.
Okay. He's not afraid to be honest, everybody. He's not afraid to be honest in this interview. Okay.
Yeah. And, one of them decided she was, wanted to be a mother. So I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. We're going to go that route. So we went that route. And then 3 years in, she passed away. And when she passed away, like I say, it was unexpected, completely unexpected. I didn't know what to do. So it was like, everything went from, smiles and laughs and, planning out the future. And if we don't have another one, to the next thing you know, it was like, I'm doing this by myself for real. Like, I'm really got to figure out life without her, and figure out how I'm going to be a dad. Mind you, I was in the streets doing a whole bunch of ungodliness, and I had to kind of tone it down. I had to put some more structure to my life, and I didn't want to raise my daughter thinking that relationships and things of that nature would having different women here in and out of my life. I didn't want her to think that that's how relationships supposed to be. So I cut out everybody, and it was just me and my daughter. And hell, till I mean, yeah, I got a girlfriend now, but I mean, for the longest period of time, I never really had women around. It was just me and her. So it was just different. It was just completely different, man. From schooling to her having friends to, well, let me start off by this one. This one was one that was really just like, I really got to do this. So changing diapers was fine for me. they starting to get older. It's like certain things that they have to do down there, and I wasn't privy to it. I was like, man, I need a woman around here because I can't do this.
Wow.
I just was like, man, how am I gonna deal with this?
Right.
So the school called me. The school called me and told me, you know, this was taking place, and I was like, okay. They was like, we need to come and pick her up. And she was crying. She didn't want to be at school. So I went and picked her up. But I was on the other side of town. So it gave me some time to think while I was driving. I didn't want her to feel like this is the worst thing ever that could happen to her. I went to Target. And I bought this big old basket. And I bought a towel. I bought some soaps. I bought her some flowers. I bought her a teddy bear. I bought her some little smell good, some perfume, some different little lotions. And I wrapped the basket up and everything. And I put it in the back of my truck. And I called my cousin and his girlfriend at the time and was like, hey, meet me at this restaurant. We're going to go to this restaurant and we're going to have dinner. And they was like, okay, why? I was like, just meet me there. Dinner on me. And he was like, all right, cool. We're on the way. So they meet me at the restaurant, and I pick her up from school, and the whole time she's just like, you know, crying and crying and crying. I'm like, look, man, it's all right. So we get to the restaurant. My cousin and them in there, they're already seated. So I set my daughter down with it, and then I went back outside and I went and got the basket, and I gave her the basket, and then she was like, "This is for me," and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Welcome to ladyhood." And I gave it to her, and that calmed her down. And she, my cousin's girlfriend, she just started crying. She was like, "My daddy never did anything like that for me," and she was like, "That's just so nice that you thought about her like that." I was like, "Man, I just didn't want to hear no crying. I ain't feel like dealing with all that. That was just to calm her down."
Dorian, man, you moved real quickly on us. We got other questions to ask you before we get to that point. So you were mentioning that you obviously you found out you were having a child. How old is your daughter now?
Now she's 20.
20. So
Mhm.
20 years ago, you find out you're having a daughter. Take us through that
Pretty much.
because your experience prior to getting to your daughter, as you mentioned, might be a little bit different than some other folks. So you find out you're having a daughter. How does that go?
Well, the thing about it, like me and her mother was together. We had been together back and forth, on and off for 12 years, and I mean, it was never really a solid relationship. But at that point in time, it was just kind of like, you know, we were together. And when she told me, mind you, before that, she had told me 5 other times, and she miscarried.
Oh, okay.
She miscarried. So we went through that. So when she told me this particular time, I still was kind of like, okay, well we'll see what happens, you know, see how everything goes, you know, as time goes.
Right.
And next thing I know, I was sitting in the living room, and she had got out of the shower and just like, you know, walked by. And that's when I was looking at her. I was like, wait a minute. What is that? And she was like, I'm 5 months pregnant now, and you're making jokes.
Oh man.
And I was like, I know, but I mean, here we are, we 5 months. All the other times that she was pregnant, you know, it was no showing. But this particular time, it was like, oh man, like this for real. So at that point in time, I was like, I remember one of my partners had called me, and he was like, hey man, what you doing? I need you to make a run with me. I was like, yeah, we need to have a real conversation. And he was like, what's up? I was like, we just need to have a conversation. So he picked me up, and mind you, he got 5 kids. Well, at the time, he got 4 kids. So I was like, man, I think I'm finna be a dad. And he was like, oh man, that's cool, that's great. I was just telling him what I got to do, what I need to do, and this, that, and other. And he was like, hey man, relax. ain't nothing like being a father, man. As you can tell, I got 4 other kids, so just you know, take your time. You know, raise them the way that you wanted to be raised, other than the way that you were raised. And that was when he gave me that, I was like, okay. I took that and ran with it. And then
Mm.
next thing I know, my daughter mother got mad at me and ran away.
Mm.
I mean, literally just ran away. I didn't hear from her. She just vanished. And I didn't know where she
Wow.
was. Yeah, I didn't know where she was. And maybe about a month passed by. And then I got a phone call and she was telling me she was in Louisiana.
And this is before your
So,
daughter was born?
yeah, yeah, yeah. She just up and went to Louisiana. And she went and stayed with her sister out there
Mm.
in Shreveport. So I started going back and forth to Shreveport, which was it was cool because it gave me a chance to get away from Houston and see some different things and kind of open my mind up to being a father, getting on the highway and riding out there and riding back and watching how much she had changed in that process. From her getting bigger and her just changing mentally in that time frame. It was different. It was different.
Wow. We were just talking about that before, Blandon and I, how your kid, even before they get there, but even right at the beginning, that they start to change you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly. Because I definitely I went into desperation mode. I was like, everybody I knew that owed me money, I was like, yo, I need my money, bro.
Right.
Uh, I need my money, man, like ASAP. Like I'm finna have a baby. I want to make sure I got things in order.
Right.
And even banking, start getting accounts lined up, and
Right.
at the time I didn't have a car. I had a motorcycle,
Mm.
so I can't strap the baby onto the back of the bike. But yeah, I had to end up getting rid of my motorcycle and getting me get a car. You just start really prioritizing things. In that process, it made me look at life different too. As far as, look, I'm really finna have a baby. I can't be doing all of this. All of
Right.
this is just, it's nonsense at this point in time.
How did it affect you after your daughter's mother passed away? What kind of effect did that have on you? You being a new parent, first time dad, what kind of toll did that have on you? And right now, it seems like you have a pretty big community. Did that community rally around you, like your mom and aunts and cousins and friends? Like, did those women in your life help you transition into being a single dad? And how was that?
I just did it on my own, bro, and it wasn't like it was difficult to do for me because I've always been that type of person where I took care of other people, as you know. So, well, to be honest, it was more of uh, I was alone. I was alone, and because everybody kept saying to me like, how you gonna do this? Who gonna raise her? And that was like fuel to me when people would say that to me. Who's gonna take care of her? Like, I mean, that's my daughter. What you think? I'm some bum off the street? Y'all seen how fly I am. What makes you think I'm not gonna continue to be that same person with her and she gonna be that way?
Right.
But
Yeah.
that was fuel for me. So I never asked nobody for nothing. Like, I've been that way my whole life. So it was like, I always felt it was my responsibility. And I wasn't going to leave that responsibility on anybody else, whether it been my father or some other chick or, you know, I just wasn't going to do that. So literally, I have. like raised my daughter like every day. She's been in my life every day. It ain't no days off. I mean, it was a point in time where my mother would take her because I got a little sister too. My little sister is 22, so she's 2 years older than my daughter. So it was times where they would hang out, and sometimes my mother would keep her for the weekends and stuff like that. But even with that, that was an issue. So I never really just. It was easy taking care of my daughter because it's my daughter. I love her to death. She looked like me, so it's like, how can you not take care of somebody else that looked like you?
Mm.
So even with the little things that they do and say, it's just you. So it makes you really want to do more for them anyway. But I mean, my community was very small. It was very small. I had one other person who came into my life at a point in time, and she helped us out from time to time. But outside of that, no, it was only me.
Now, was that you mentioned you've always been self-reliant, and for us men, you don't want to ask for help. You don't, you want to almost prove what maybe some others are saying that is not possible. But are you saying that your community was small because people didn't want to help, or because you felt like you just wanted to do it on your own?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm just one of those people. Like, if it's something I want, I save up, I go and get it. If that's what it is that I want, you know what I mean. I've always been that person, so I didn't know how to ask anybody for help because I was going to figure it out. The only thing I was going to ask about was, "Hey, man, look, she got a little issue down there. Can you come take care of it?" That was it. Outside of that, I didn't have no problem with raising her. Daycare or school or different activities. Like I did it all myself. I didn't. It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me. And actually, my cousin, he has 4 kids, and he decided he didn't really want to be that guy. So I kind of had those are like my other kids.
Mm.
So I would always have them and my daughter. So it was like, that was kind of like the community.
Now, what about when because I get this now, and I've been married to my wife for 21 years, uh, but I'll take my daughters to school, or I'll go pick them up, or I'm asking about something. They're like, "We'll talk to mom." Like they're like, we know you might not know this. Like we'll just talk to mom, and I'm like, no, just I'm here. Like let me, you know,
Right. Right.
and I don't know how much of that is in jest or if they're serious. There's sometimes where I'm like, oh, that lady's serious. She's waiting for her mom to come pick her up. So did
Right.
you did you experience? I have to assume in the last 20 years you have to experience a lot of that as you're growing up as a father raising your daughter.
Right. Well, the difference with y'all and the difference with me is I'm the mother. I'm the mother too. So when she wants to have that conversation with the mother, she decides to go and have the conversation with the mother on your end. You know what I mean?
Right?
And I have to be, girls change you anyway. They make you softer.
Yeah.
So as a person of my stature, like I was a really rough around the edge guy. So I really had to change because there was times that I would come in the house and she would just be like, "Oh, you being mean, you being mean," and I'm just like, "I ain't say nothing but why all these lights on." So just little stuff like that, I had to change a whole lot
Right.
how I would speak to her because it would just they would just start crying and then after that I can't reel her back in. So I had to do a 720 as far as the way I talk, my mannerisms, how I move, and I had to kind of get to the point to where I talk to her all the time. you know, even just going in a room and just laying next to her and be like, hey, how was your day? What's going on? What you thinking about? What you think about this? What you think about that? So I had to make it to where she wanted to talk to me all the time. And now it's like, it's that all the time now. Like now when I come in the house
Mm.
or before I even get home, like today, right before Blandon called me, she called me like, so when you coming home? What time you gonna be here? You know we need some bread. It's like she's the warden.
Right.
But we talk about everything. And I love it that we can communicate like that. Like she's fine with talking to me about everything. I started talking to her about boys and sex when she was probably 7 years old.
Mm.
Mhm.
And the reason I did that was because I wanted her to feel safe with having any conversation with me. You know, like even if we would watch a different movie, my teachings are a little bit different than probably most. Um, like if we were watching a movie and it was a sex scene or something like that, I never said, "Hey, get out of here," or "Close your eyes," or this, that, and other. I just kind of, it kind of relay the message of that's a natural act that people do when they tend to love each other. I say sometimes it's a little different as you get older, but it's an act done by people when they love each other. So always understand that if you're going to put yourself in that situation, let it be with somebody that you truly love and they truly love you. But, a lot of people would be like, man, she's too young for that. Why would you tell her this? Why would you tell her that? I was like, I'd rather be the one to tell her right now versus she's seeing something on TV with one of her friends or hearing something from at school that's completely wrong. So I want her to have a standard of what it's supposed to be early
Right.
versus
Yeah.
most people start wanting to tell their kids about sex and stuff when they get about 13, 12, 13. It's like, nah, man, it's too late for that.
Yeah.
She done already seen pictures and stuff popping up on her phones. Like, nah. Matter of fact, I told her when she got about 12 years old, I made her write an essay to me as what do you know about sex and what have you heard about sex? So I made her write me an essay about it. It was hilarious. I wish I still had that paper so I could read it, but it was hilarious.
So it to me it sounds like you and your daughter are a term that we use in the military as your that sounds like your combat buddy, right? That sounds like
Exactly.
someone who it's been you and her against the world. So how does that leave room for a love life for yourself? Like uh you said you didn't want to see your daughter to see women coming in and out of your life. Um, but how has that been, and how will that go forward? Like, would she have to approve of the woman who becomes, your life partner? Because it sounds like your daughter's already your combat buddy, which, hey, it has been you and her against the world. So how would that go?
Yeah, I mean, once again, like I told you before, it's just all about communication. We just conversate about everything, and as you know, my the relationship that I'm in right now has been rocky because she has two kids and I have one, and she's been pretty much raising her kids by herself. I mean, but I just let her know like, hey, this is the situation. This is somebody I like, and we kind of navigated around it like that. But when I first, my girlfriend now, when I first brought her around, my daughter at the time was probably 15. Yeah, she was probably
Okay.
like 15, 14, 15. And we were talking about, getting passports. So she was like, well, I'm going to bring you the paperwork over. And I was like, okay, cool. So she brought the paperwork for the passport to my house. And it was about 7 o'clock, something like that in the evening. And I was happy to just be cooking dinner. So when she came over, I, was like, hey man, look, I cooked dinner. You want to eat? She was like, yeah, I'll eat with you. So we sat down and we ate and we started talking. And about an hour and a half went by, hour and a half, almost 2 hours went by. My daughter comes downstairs and was like, yeah, daddy, it's about time for your company to go home. So I'm like looking at her like, man, wait a minute, if you don't go back upstairs and get out of here. But, it's always been, she is very, very protective of me because in her mind, you know, she doesn't have anybody else.
Absolutely. I
She
was
does,
going to say that.
yeah,
She has to be territorial over you because you're all she has.
very territorial, very territorial, very. Like even with my mother, she's territorial. Like you can't say nothing crazy about me around her,
Right.
or she gonna be my reaction.
Well, it definitely sounds like it's. I mean, you've put in that work, right? So you've been intentional with your daughter, and that's something that your daughter's 20. My oldest is 12. I want to believe that at 20, my oldest and then my middle child will want to be around me and then want to be coming back around and have that relationship with me that's consistent, right? And it sounds like you've done that intentional work that means that she appreciates y'all's relationship.
Yeah, she does, and like I say, I've done everything that I could possibly do to make it so that she's comfortable having conversations with me. I mean, regardless of one thing that I've always done with her is I take the emotions out of the conversation. Because us as men, sometimes as soon as they say something about a boy or something like that, it's like we automatically like who the what?
Yeah.
So me having to have that mother side, I had to take a lot of the emotion out of it and just listen to what it is that she's saying. And sometimes it bothers me, but I rather that she's comfortable coming to me and saying it versus not saying nothing to me at all. And then I don't know or have to find out through a different source.
Right. Absolutely.
Because you can better protect her when you have the information.
Right.
You can give her better insight, advice into a situation if she is open, honest, and transparent with you about what's going on.
Correct.
So I understand that. I understand that that mindset, right? Because it is our job to make our daughters comfortable with us, to come to us even in a bad situation, right? Even if they make a misstep and they make a choice that isn't so great, I still want my girls to come to me, be able to talk to me about it so that I can help them out of it, or at least help them maneuver through it
Right.
and not compound the mistake with something worse. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, like I said, that communication thing was huge because I always wanted her to understand too. Like we had a situation to where when she was in school, I kind of went off on her and I just went to screaming at her about her grades and things going on at school. And then later on that day, it just kind of dawned on me as it's like I'm screaming at this girl and she's 8, 9 years old and I'm getting all irate. And I just was like, and she was sitting in the back seat just crying, crying, crying. And I just had to I thought about it later on that day. I was like, you know what? These grades don't mean that much.
Right.
They don't mean that much for my daughter to feel like she's feeling right now and for me to feel like how I'm feeling right now.
Right.
So at that point in time, I just was like, hey man, look, I always want you to do your best at whatever it is that you do. Do your best. Do your best. I was like, regardless of what somebody else says or what somebody else think, you did your best. And from that point in time, we kind of had a different relationship with school because I always wanted her to be open and I always wanted her to be honest.
Right.
I was like, I don't care what you do. I'm always on your side. Right or wrong, I'm still gonna be on your side.
Yeah, we just had a conversation like that here with grades, my daughter was upset about one of her grades, and I looked at her. I was like, I don't care about the grade. The grade only tells me that you might be missing some output. That's all it tells me. I don't care what the actual grade is,
Right,
right? Like, hey,
right,
if you're not giving it your all, the grade will show, right? And if you're giving your all, the grade is still showing, then we can have a different conversation with the teachers. But for the most part, I'm not worried about the grade. I'm worried about you putting the effort that you need to do for the things that you need to do, even if you don't like them sometimes. I said, in our
hmm
industry, we give 100% effort. Just figure that out. The grade will come with the effort. Like, I'm not really worried about the grade. And so having that conversation with grades, because I grew up much differently. Like, if I had a bad grade, given I had a lot of bad grades, so it did not go well with my parents all the time.
right,
It's just about
right.
that. So that's a great point that you bring up with that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as school wise, I never had a problem out of her with school, which I'm happy. But I didn't have many problems. We had two issues out of school. One when she was probably in like the fourth grade or fifth grade, and the next time she was in the 10th grade. And after that, I had no more problems out of with school.
Wow,
Them two issues was it.
that's something to shoot for. Because I was
Yeah,
I was a little hellion during high school, so
yeah, but then
Yeah, we
too,
can only imagine. We can only imagine.
but
just coming home.
then too, I was a present father. Meaning, I'm not saying that y'all aren't, but with it just being me, I was always at the school. I was always at the schools every day. I was picking her up, dropping her off, and then there was times where I would just show up, just to do lunch and stuff like that. And then it got to a point where the schools were like, "Well, you can't come to the lunch. You can't come to lunch no more," and this, that, and other. And I was like, "Nah, I don't know what kind of rules y'all setting, but I'm coming up here. Y'all not gonna have y'all not gonna have more influence over me, over my daughter than I do." I was like,
Right,
"Not at all."
Right.
I was like, "Y'all got her
Right.
for a certain amount of time throughout the day. I still have to come up here and make my presence felt."
right,
So that she understands that I'm her father. I started really like meeting the teachers, letting them know who I was, coming up there randomly, doing lunch. Sometimes I would take the teachers cookies or donuts and stuff like that, to the point like, to this day, people walk up to me like, "Hey, Mr. Johnson." And I'd be like, "Man, who is that?" She'd be like, your daughter went to such and such school, and I was one of the teachers, or I was the principal, the assistant principal, the PE teacher. It's always something like that.
mm,
So definitely make yourself a presence at your kids' school,
I
no
like
matter
that.
how old they are. No matter how old they are, because you do not want them people having more control over your kids than you do.
Right,
Dorian, so I have another question for you. Because it's not very commonplace for single dads to raise their children, and then it's still not commonplace for single girl dads to have, you know, custody and raise their children on their own. What is some advice that you would give to other single girl dads if you could go back and say, I wish somebody had given me this piece of advice?
Some advertising with me. I'm usually you can see me around town. I'm moving around a whole lot. People always be like, "Man, I seen you on 59. I seen you on Highway 6. I seen you in 249." I'm always moving around. So if you see me, honk, blow, pull up next to me, scan the QR code on the side of the van, and you got me. Well, to be honest with you, like I told you, it's communication. I mean, it's always communication, open communication as much as possible. But like I always say, there's no rule handbook in raising a kid. There's no rule handbook in life. It's just we just have to figure it out and navigate through it as best as we can. As far as advice, all I can say, man, is communicate and take your feelings and your emotions out a lot of it, because they're gonna hurt your feelings. They're gonna hurt your feelings, and it's like you have to just kind of accept it. You gotta accept it. Yeah, I accept it. I would have never thought this in a million years that I would be in this situation like this with my daughter.
Mm,
But to be honest, I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change it for the
mm.
world. She changed me and put me in, she made me a better version of me. She definitely made me a better version of me.
It's crazy how much power these little children have right from the beginning.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well,
For
Dorian,
sure.
man, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on here and giving us that story. I mean, it's a not only is it unique because you're a single dad, but you're a single dad raising a girl, and your story as a whole is just out of the ordinary for a lot of folks, right? And so we hope that we know that actually that what you're talking about is going to resonate with some folks out there that Blandon and I could not resonate with because we don't have that
Right.
experience. So thank you so
Right.
much on my part for coming on here and sharing your story and hanging out with us for a little bit. I greatly appreciate it, man. Blandon, you got anything else for us?
Yeah, man. Dorian, tell us how we can find you and what else you have going on. We see you have your truck in the back. We know that you are. Yeah, go ahead. Introduce your business and tell us where we can find you.
Okay, what it is I do, y'all already know that I'm a barber. I am an entrepreneur. I do mobile advertising. So what you see in the background is part of my mobile advertising. I actually took the time to build a van and I put all these different TVs on it and speakers and cameras. And it's just a way to bring awareness to different businesses that are out there. Actually, I decided to build it. I built it for I used to do artist management, and I had artists that I was managing at the time, and we were just trying to get him known and get his face out there a little bit. So I was like, let's do something different that most artists and most people hadn't seen. So I created this, and then in the process of me creating it, it grew its own legs, and so did my artist. He ended up going in a different direction, and I went in a different direction too. So that's what it is I do. You can find me on Instagram on all social platforms at Blocks Media Vision, BLOX Media, MEDIA, Vision, VIZION, or you can hit me at 832-814-4413 if you want to do.
There we go. And yeah, we also know that you're a barber. Please don't overbook him because then I won't be able to get my beard chopped up and nice. So I mean, y'all, act accordingly. Please, book him, but don't book on Saturdays. Okay, that's my day.
Oh yeah. I didn't even give you I didn't give you my barber handle. My barber handle, you can find me on all social platforms too. Legendary. Get it right. Legendary. Razor Sharp Barber Studio.
All right. And we'll make sure to put all those links into the show notes, and people can find you, click on there, and get onto you. Again, greatly appreciate you being here with us and spending time with us. For you guys out there, hopefully this helped you as well. If you had a different perspective that me and Blandon could bring, we know that this is something unique, and we greatly appreciate you all for your support and being on here with us. Please keep listening. Send us your comments to conversations@daughterpodcast.com. Also, go below. You'll see send us a text. You can send us a text, and we will respond to those. Or actually, we can't respond to those actually, but we will respond to those through the podcast as we get them. Again, with Dorian over on his side, Blandon on the other side, and for me here. Until the next one, thank you all very much.